In today's tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to lay out your applique pieces for the Diamond Jubilee wall hanging pattern that you can go and find on my website, quilts.com. All right, so the first thing that you're going to want to do, because this is a dark background, is take your chalk pencil. And again, I share all of the supplies that I use in my quilting business or pattern making business in the description and on my Amazon list. But what you want to do is take this chalk pencil and draw a line corner to corner, corner to corner, and then you're going to half it one way and half it the other way as well. So you're going to find your center, which is right here, and hopefully you can see the lines that I've already drawn. And these lines are important because this kind of gives us an idea of where we want to put our applique pieces. So we're going to start by remembering, first off, is that you need to leave a seam allowance all the way around your background piece. So keep that in mind. You don't want anything to be too close to the edge because you'll end up sewing over it. So just an FYI. All right, so the first thing that we're going to put down is the pot. And the reason that we want to put the pot down first is because everything else kind of comes out of that pot. The last thing you're going to want to put down are the little buds on the middle, the little center of the flowers. Where did I put those? So they look like this. They're just little black dots. And I've already put these on the Applique fusible web. So if you're curious on how to do that, go watch my other tutorial video on how to put your fabric on your fusible web. Anyway, so we've got all of our pieces here ready to put on. And the last, like I said, the last thing you're going to put on are these little flower centers. What are they called? I think I can't think of the name right now. Anyway, so that'll be the very last thing that you put on your applique because it is on the top. So applique is a lot of layering. So what we want to do, if you're looking at the diagram, if you've purchased the pattern, you're looking at the diagram, is that the flowers go on second to last. And the reason for that is because we're going to hide the stems behind the flowers. So the stems, after we have this on, we can fuse this down because there are two additional pieces that go over top here. And this piece is where we're going to hide the stems that come out of the pot. So we have two stems that come down here with flowers, if you're looking at the diagram. And then we have stems that come out here and here with their flowers on top. So we're going to lay everything out using just Elmer's school glue. We're not going to fuse anything down with our iron just yet. And the reason for that is because you are always going to forget a piece and you're going to be kicking yourself if you do because it's fused down and you don't really want to disturb that after you have fused it with the iron. So I like to kind of get a lay of the land, so to say, with my Elmer's stick glue. And all I do is... Sorry about that. Okay. So the reason for that is that we don't want to fuse anything down with the iron is because you're always going to forget a little piece and then you're going to be kicking yourself because you're going to have to lift it up and you don't really want to disturb your applique pieces that are fused with the iron. Okay. So yeah, we're just going to use our school glue and we're just going to apply just a little bit on the back. Don't go crazy, don't glue the whole thing or anything. This is just to make it stay in place so we can take it over the iron and give it an iron. Furthermore, if you have one of those big, lovely wool mats, ironing mats, those work awesome for applique because you can move them around and they're wider than a typical ironing board. So I really do love using those as well. So I'm going to start fusing this down and you can just watch how I lay everything out. And then we can take it over to the iron and fuse it. So the iron temperature matters a whole lot. You do not want to use an iron that is really super hot. I recommend a medium heat. Usually that is like a wool setting on your iron. So you want to use kind of like a wool setting, and you're just going to press your pieces down with the iron 6 to 8 seconds. I find that 8 seconds is kind of the magic number, and you're going to release. Never swoosh. Never swish your iron around. You will not like your life. Okay, so that is what we're going to do. We are going to start with this piece right here, and we're going to build up from there. And like I said, we found our center right here, right? So what I want to do with this particular one is just kind of eyeball it. Another thing I do want to say before we get too carried away are all of the templates have letters on them. And I have added those letters to the diagram so you know where every piece goes. I'm not going to go over all the letters in the video because I will confuse myself if I'm having to record and also look at the diagram. So I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to go with what looks good to me. But if you are a little bit more nitpicky or I'm more of a perfectionist, then you can read those letters and go do that way. I have done it several times using the letters and they work out really nice. But for the video, I'm going to wing it. Okay, so for these bigger pieces, if you're curious on how to find the center of those, is just gently fold them in half, like so, and just give it a very light press. Nothing crazy. You just want to see that crease in there, but you don't want a sharp crease, right? And we're just going to kind of line things up, and I'm seeing that this pot is a little bit lower, so I'm going to bring this down because my flowers come out of the vase or the pot, and they just kind of go out and up and take up a lot of room. So I want to make sure that I have lots of room for my stems and leaves and flowers and things like that. So we're going to bring down this pot to here, knowing that we also have a base that we need to put on afterwards. So like I said before, you want to make sure that you leave seam allowance at the bottom. You don't want to put everything so close to the bottom because you'll end up sewing that over, right? So we're just gonna kind of line everything up, eyeball it like that, and kind of get an idea of where we want our pot. Take your time with this. It's not a rush. It's actually quite enjoyable if you take your time. Another thing I do want to mention is I have just recently started doing a straight stitch with my applique rather than a zigzag stitch, and I find that so much more enjoyable. I do worry about fray, but I do it for the process. So I have switched from doing a zigzag stitch, which I do share all of this information in the pattern on stitch length and width and all of that. There's a lot of different stitches you can use. If you have a fancier machine, you'll have the blanket stitch, which you can also use. Zigzag, I find one to be one of the easier stitches to use, but straight stitch is like my favorite. Actually, I'm going to grab the other project that I just completed and just show you what the straight stitch can look like. I did this with like a dove colored thread. It's a 50 weight, and I did a straight stitch around all of my applique pieces, and I am in love with it. I love the look of this more than the zigzag. I just find that it's really quite pretty. It will fray over time, but it's a wall hanging, so I'm not super worried about it. But the amount of fraying that happens is not enough for me to want to go back to the zigzag stitch because I really do enjoy that straight stitch. So for the straight stitch, I use about a 2 to a 2.5 millimeter. I find that the 2 millimeter works really, really well. And ironically, you can use, and I have the applique foot, which is amazing, but I have also found that my zipper foot does a perfect seam allowance around the applique when I stitch it. So you might want to keep that in mind. So when I am stitching it with the zipper foot, which is very, very thin on a Juki or the Brother 1600, I really, really like that look. It's a perfect stitch with. You can't always see everything like on applique foot, but the zipper foot works really well. And for my Brother 1600, which is also the newest model of a 1500, in case you're curious. It's equivalent to a Juki 2010 or the 2000. So that zipper foot is amazing. I really bought it. I bought it off of Amazon. It works really good. Anyway, it works really, really well. It's quite enjoyable to finish, and it's really got me into applique a little bit more because I kind of dreaded doing the zigzag stitch. I will be honest. It is easy enough, but I wasn't in love with the look of it, I guess. So anyway. All right, so we can start putting this all together. So the first thing you're going to want to do is peel the paper backing off of your applique pieces, and you'll see this like shiny side, and that is the glue. And it's not glue, it's not sticky while you're touching it. The iron heats up the glue and then we'll fuse it to your fabric. But I like to use, while I am placing everything, is to use my glue stick. So I will do that, and literally you just need a little bit. Don't go crazy. Just a little bit, just to get everything to kind of stick in place. And for this one, nothing really goes underneath it, so you can actually fuse this one with your iron down if you want. I'm gonna put it right about there. So if you can see, there's like a line coming down here to the corners, right? And I have the corners of my applique piece, just touching those a little bit over, and then I have centered the pot with the line that goes to the bottom. And I'm just going to brush it down a little bit to get my glue from the stick, the glue stick glue, to kind of stick it down like that. Then we can move on to the second piece, and this piece can also be fused down because there isn't any pieces coming out of it. So say, for example, this piece here had the flowers or any of the other applique pieces, then you would not want to fuse it down. I'm just gonna stick it down for now, and then we're gonna take this over to the iron and iron it. There we go. Okay, so for this bit, I can take it over to the iron because all of the stems that is going to be coming out of our pot actually get hid behind this piece. And depending on what color you chose for this is the espresso. So I am not concerned about fusing these two pieces down. I do not want to fuse this piece down because the stems come out of it, right? So we don't want that, because then you're going to have to pick up your applique, and that's not awesome. Okay, so I'm going to take this over to the iron and fuse this down, and we will carry on. All right, so I've come back from the iron, and these two pieces have been fused down, so they are permanently there forever. So now we can start adding our other pieces, and from here, I'm just going to let you watch me kind of piece everything together. So I did want to mention that, again, you don't want to fuse your stems down until you have your leaves tucked in underneath and hiding. And you also kind of want to pay attention to your leaf shape and which way that you want to put that on. Like, be creative. You know, if you want to put it this way out, where the sharp point is facing out, then do that. But if you want to go the other way, then do that. You know, there's no rules. You're supposed to enjoy the process. But you want to pay attention and maybe, you know, make sure that you do that same thing every time, right? Okay, so now we have a small flower in here. And the small flowers go down here. All of the bigger blooms go up into the main bouquet. You don't need a lot of glue. This is just to kind of hold everything down. And you can move things around. This is why I don't fuse things, so you can kind of move things around a little bit if you have to. Right? And here is the little bud thingy. I cannot think of what these are called right now, but the center of your bloom. And after we get this bottom portion aligned and kind of centered, we can go ahead and fuse these pieces, okay? Because they're finished. And then we can move up to the other blooms here. So we need these. I'm gonna move this out of the way. All right, so I've laid out my pieces kind of where I want them. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to like it, all right? So allow yourself some artistic, artistic license, what my art teacher used to say, and just do it your way. All right, so this portion of our applique is ready to be fused, and we can move on to the big show up here. So I'm gonna go and do that, and I will be right back. All right, so I brought it back from the iron, and I have not ironed this area because we still need to put another stem here. So I've left that open, but I did iron here and over here, and I just kind of went over this a little bit more because I felt like maybe it would lift, but I hadn't ironed it enough. But okay, so this is fused and ready to go. If you wanted to, you could go and sew those down, but I don't run that way. I like to fuse everything and then spend some time sewing it down. And if it does pop up, if there's a piece that pops up while I'm sewing, I just have a glue stick next to me, and I just use a little smear of that, press it for a couple seconds, let it dry, and then I just sew over it, and it's totally good. It's totally fine. All right, so let's continue on putting our applique together. Straight stem piece we have here, in case you're aware. And like I said, just a tiny bit of glue. And this one goes directly on the line for the center. And we're just gonna push it down there, like so. And then we can start adding blooms. So we will just get an idea of where the bloom needs to go here. But we're not gonna fuse it down, remember. So we're going to play with the pieces and make sure that we have them properly aligned before we decide to adhere them permanently. So I kind of like the way that's sitting there like that. And we're just going to do the center because there's stems coming out of this flower, right? So we're just going to add a little bit of glue just to the center there. And then we're going to grab our other stems. See where they all align. Get a feel for what things are going to look like. Where is it? Okay, so these curved ones that are curved this way go down here. And then these funky ones go up here. I think I like the funky one over here, actually. Maybe. No, I like it this way. And just play with it a little bit, right? Get a feel for how you want it to look. Okay, so I just slid this down. I didn't catch that on camera, so I apologize. But I'm going to go back to quiet mode, and you can just watch me assemble everything. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've laid out my stems and some of the leaves. And what I've done is I've just set down the blooms just to see where they're gonna land, because we still have leaves that'll go underneath these blooms. So I'm just gonna remove those. And right now I had an oopsie. So if you can probably see that in the video, I had to deal with that. Anyway, so now I feel comfortable that I can take this over to the iron and give it a press. So this portion can be pressed down and I'm not worried about having to sneak anything under anything. So it's all good to go. So here is where you can give everything a press and then add your blooms and the rest of your leaves, and we are done. So I'm gonna go take this over to the iron and I'll be right back. So I just brought it back from the iron and these are nice and fused down, so we can add the last little bit here. And before I iron these down, I kind of put these out just to get a feel for where I wanted everything to go and how I would want it to look and the balance that I want to get from it. And if you don't like the way that the leaves are, you know, positioned, then do something about it. Just a template for you to play with. So I didn't like how this was positioned so much over here, so I just shifted it a little bit so it's not touching the other leaves. So I kind of like that layout. So then I can go ahead and start laying things out. So I'll let you just watch me work while we do that. All right, so we've placed the rest of our blooms with our leaves and we're ready to give it our last press. But this is what it will look like when we're ready to go ahead and sew. So I'm going to conclude the video here. I hope this was helpful in how you place your applique. And like I said, the pattern is available on my site at thelmaquilts.com. So definitely go check it out. Comment, subscribe, leave a like. I appreciate it all. Thanks again. Bye now.